Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News, and I have a surprise for you.
Oh,
Hey,
it's me.
it's
Hello.
you. You're here. Chewy is back with us. How are you, man? How you feeling?
Oh, I am very aggressively medium. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Everyone's been wondering. Tell us about your sickness. What's been going on?
it's just a flu, but what a flu. I've
Yeah.
tested, it's not COVID. I just turned into a mobile or semi-mobile snot factory and have just generally been pretty unpleasant to be around. So that's
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah, look, Chewy. They've all been very, very grumpy that it's been only me, Chewy. And but
I bet. Well, it's not what they paid for, is it?
yeah, I know. It's like they've got the brains but not the looks, you see, and they want the looks as well, Chewy. They want
That's fair.
they want the looks as well. How are you, man? What's been going on? Anything happening in your world you want to talk to us about? Tell us about anything exciting?
Oh, not really. Haven't really left the house for 3 days, which has been great. But just got back from catching up with an old
Name?
Polytech mate of mine from a broadcasting school days,
All right.
which is great. It's just one of those mates that you just doesn't matter how if you don't talk often, you don't see each other for ages, you just slot back into it.
Yeah, they're good, those friends, eh?
Yeah.
Those ones that you haven't seen each other for 12 months and it feels like you just had a big long chat yesterday.
Yep, absolutely.
Pretty spesh. Pretty spesh. Well, yeah, we all had a night off on Monday and I was back here on Tuesday and now we're here on Wednesday. And let me ask you this question, no spoilers, obviously. Has the final of The Last of Us happened this week? Because I have not seen it.
No, so I believe it's the semi-final was this week.
Okay.
So episode 8, and then I
All
think
right.
episode 9 is the last one.
All right. So maybe tomorrow. So have you seen this week's episode? I'm sure you have because you've been home sick, eh?
Yeah, I have seen it. Yep.
All right. Tomorrow night. So if people haven't seen it yet, tomorrow night we'll be talking about it. Spoilers will be had. Last of Us conversation tomorrow night. Fair?
Nice. Fair warning.
I think it's fair, and I think it's fair warning as well. Let me say a big thanks to our patrons who are with us to the end. I've heard from most of these people, and they would fight with us to the death, Joey. They would die for the cause, is what I'm hearing.
That's
I think
correct.
that's what I'm hearing. Or
and
either that or
3 months before we have to put that to the test.
Either that or
I've said too much.
Yeah, or they told me to go die. I can't remember which one of those two things it was. Thank you very much for being on board, patrons. We appreciate every single one of you. As Chewy always says, remember, as soon as you become a patron, you get 22% more attractive. And if you want to be involved, it's patreon.com/big hairy news. As simple as that. Simple and quick and easy as that, Chewy. So we are going to be talking about a few things tonight. We might start with Elon Musk, I think, because there is some interesting...
Oh, my boy. My beautiful baby boy.
Your baby boy Elon. Elon has been doing the rounds. Musk apologizes after taunting. I don't think it's daunting. Disabled Twitter employee he laid off. So this is Elon Musk. People may not have heard of him before. He's got some money and he buys things and pretty much ruins them. Would that be fair? Synopsis of his
Pretty
business card?
But purely by realizing that he's not on the internet.
Although
and just running his mouth.
I think what's his name? Can't think of his name. Who's currently hosting the Daily Show? It seems like they're going through some hosts to see who's going to take it on. He basically had a lovely rant the other day about leaving Twitter, and he said Elon hasn't made Twitter a cesspit. It has always been a cesspit. It's just talked about more now after Elon's taken over. I think there's probably some validity to that as well. I think. Yeah. So let's get to the story. If you're not told you're fired, are you really fired? It's like if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? At Twitter, it means probably you are. Haraldur Thorifson, who until recently was employed at Twitter, logged into his computer last Sunday to do some work, only to find himself locked out along with 200 others. He might have figured, as others have before him in the month of chaotic layoffs and firing since Elon Musk took over the company, that he was out of a job. Instead, after 9 days of no answer from Twitter as to whether or not he was still employed, Thorleifson decided to tweet at Musk to see if he could catch the billionaire's attention and get an answer to his Freudian job situation. Maybe if enough people retweet, you'll answer me here, he wrote on Monday. And then a guy called Alex Cohen. Alex Cohen is a former employee of Twitter. He was a person who used to be the director of badge access at Twitter. I'm assuming that that means, back in the old day when you couldn't just be a dick like me and pay for a tick because you want to put long videos on. They only gave ticks to, profile people. He was probably one of the directors of that department. That's what I'm assuming. So he used to work at Twitter, and he's also doing more startup type things. I quite like his write up. Alex Cohen, and this was at 29, my net worth is 25 million. Here how I got there. Saved 500,000 from my job over 8 years. Saved 250,000 from my side hustles. Bought 1.25 million in highly leveraged real estate, and then received 23 million gift from my follow me for more personal and financial advice. So that's who he is. He lists himself as a professional shit poster. So the story with Elon Musk goes on, and Alex Cohen listed a bunch of the text. So we'll just go to his Twitter to have a look what's been said. Alex says, I'm not going to lie, this is the most entertaining exit interview I've ever witnessed.
Absolutely.
So let's go through it. This is the gentleman in question. 9 days ago, the access to my work computer was cut, along with about 200 other Twitter employees. However, your head of HR is not able to confirm if I am an employee or not. You've not answered my emails. Maybe if enough people retweet, you'll answer me here. Elon says, what work have you been doing? He says, I would need to break confidentiality to answer that question here. If you have your lawyers share in writing can do that, I can do that, then I'd be happy to discuss it openly. And Elon says, it's approved. You can go ahead. He says, among others, led the effort to save about 500K on one SaaS contract, supported closing down many others, led prioritization of design projects across the company to make sure we were able to deliver with a small team, led design crits, maybe it's criticals, to help level up design across the company, was hiring manager for all design roles, worked on efforts to steer the company away from focusing on power users and onto younger users because our user base is aging.
Hurtful, but go on.
Elon's response, level up from what design to what? Picks or it didn't happen. Okay. So evidence or it didn't happen. We haven't hired design roles in 4 months. What changes did you make to help with the youths? And then he says, would you say that you're a people person? So that's Elon Musk going back to him. And then he followed all of that up by saying, the reality is this guy who is independently wealthy, like it matters, did no actual work, claimed as his excuse that he had a disability that prevented him from typing, yet was simultaneously tweeting up a storm. Can't say I've got a lot of respect for that. Oopsie. So that was Musk's response. Now, eventually, he got his answer after a surreal Twitter exchange from Musk, who proceeded to quiz him about his work. We've just been through all of that. While the exchange was going on, Thorefson said he received an email that said he was no longer employed. Today, however, Musk had a change of heart.
I bet his lawyers did.
Yeah, I would like to apologize to Harley for my misunderstanding of his situation. It was based on things I was told that were untrue or, in some cases, true but not meaningful. He tweeted, he is considering remaining at Twitter. Thorleifson did not immediately respond to a message for comment following Musk's tweet. In an earlier email, he called the experience surreal. Thorleifson, who lives in Iceland, has about 141,000 Twitter followers. He joined Twitter in 2021 when the company under the prior management acquired his startup called Uenio or something. He was lauded in Icelandic media for choosing to receive the purchase price in wages rather than a lump sum payout. That's because this way he would pay higher taxes to Iceland to support of its local social services and safety net. Thorleifson tweeted to Musk, the reason I've asked you in public, you or anyone else at Twitter didn't reply to my private messages. You have every right to lay me off, but it would be nice to know to let me know. Would have been nice to let me know, he added. Thorleifsson's next move: I'm opening a restaurant in downtown Reykjavik very soon. He tweeted, it's named after my mom. So there you go, Chewy. There's the latest heads up from Mr. Musk.
That story misses out the juiciest part.
Oh, please tell.
So, as part of his selling his startup to Twitter,
yep,
and getting the purchase price and wages, there is a termination clause that says that if he's terminated, he must be paid that I think it's $100 million.
Oh,
all at once.
Oh, I wonder if that's why there's been a rethink by Mr. Musk.
So that's the whole thing. Oh, yeah, possibly that, and like shit talking the guy on Twitter, talking about his disability on Twitter. Like I can imagine that Elon's tweeting away the whole time. His phone's ringing and it's his lawyers going, "Dude, you've got to shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up." I've also seen some analysis that suggests that this probably suggests that there isn't a functioning HR department at Twitter.
Yeah.
Because this is how they did their last round of layoffs as well, is that they just removed people's access from the systems. There was no notice, there's no communication telling people, hey, you've been fired or let go. And this is probably something you can do in America, but of course, a lot of Twitter's employees don't work in America and the laws don't apply to them in the same way. And there are people that know this. I would suggest that Elon probably doesn't.
I'm looking up what the sale price of Ueno is, because if that's true, if the numbers you're saying are accurate, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, I'm just want to double check, of 100 million. So therefore, Musk bought Twitter for 44 billion, and he's trying to save money. And because he fired this guy who now has some kind of letter confirming he's been fired, he might have to fork out another $100 million or whatever the figure is, because of the contract that he set up with the previous owners that obviously Musk has to actually honor.
But it just goes. This is my whole criticism with Musk. I don't think he's a good engineer. I don't think he's someone that really comes up. He acquires good ideas, but by God, someone needs to slap the keyboard out of his hand like just constantly.
There you go.
Like I'm surprised that he doesn't have a team of lawyers just following him. There was a story this week that says that he goes everywhere with a couple of bodyguards, even to the bathroom. They need to add lawyers into that roster. What are you doing in the cubicle, Elon? Are you tweeting but people? We've spoken about this.
Not allowed to wear any devices on his wrists. Not allowed to take his phone into the toilet.
Jesus. Yeah.
So here's the story, just to confirm it. Elon Musk made a $100 million mistake publicly firing an employee on Twitter. I wonder as well, I mean, respectfully, if you get a check for 100 mil, that's US dollars, obviously. You're not going to be too worried about doing a court case. But I wonder about America being very litigious about the harm that it might have caused to his reputation, the embarrassment. I wonder if there's potentially any more money on top of that. So they've been paying him since 2021, and now they've got to pay him the full purchase price anyway, to buy him out because they fired him. And obviously, so this is the tweet up here. I would like to apologize to Harley for my misunderstanding of the situation. It was based on things I was told. He is considering remaining at Twitter, or should that? So in other words, if you've been offered $100 million and you're taking it in wages, what does that mean? You're getting $3 million or you're getting $4 million a year for a 25-year contract?
Or something like that. And obviously,
wow,
it works for him or that sort of thing. Like if you look up the guy's Thor's, Harley. If you look up his Wikipedia page, he's done some amazing things.
Yeah.
I think he got voted like Iceland's Person of the Year one year, and all of this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's just that classic Musk picking a fight that didn't need to be had. Like, if you're going to let people go, just tell them. It just seems such a minimal effort thing. But just the utter disregard that he treats people, or has treated people since since he stumbled into Twitter.
I wonder the austerity measures at Twitter. I wonder how much they've saved in operational fund. I wonder if they've saved less than $100 million. Because if they've saved less than $100 million, what this buffoon's just done has taken over Twitter, and this year's accounts will be now worse than last year's accounts.
Yeah, I mean, he's lucky that Tesla is overvalued as it is, because this whole Twitter thing has affected Tesla as well. I know that there's stories out there of shareholders that are like, look, hey, you fucking off and doing this Twitter bullshit has negatively affected my share value in Tesla. I'm not happy. I'm a major shareholder, not happy. Like he's come, I think he's come reasonably close to being rolled, but yeah, it's just like you can be a smart guy, you can be a billionaire, you can do things. It just seems to be, you get to a point where you believe your own press, and I mean he tweets Twitter like I do, but I don't have the investment in it.
It's the echo chamber. And look, I heard someone talking today about the echo chambers, and it's always said in a negative way. It's not a negative way. We have an echo chamber for the show, yeah, because even though we do get, other people with other perspectives coming in, the majority of the people who consume this content are aligned with our thought process in some way. So this is an echo chamber, right? Let's not beat around the bush. Like, we try and show all aspects and we talk to all sorts of people, but most of people who consume this content think, let's say in the same chapter of the book as we do. Maybe not exactly the same, but the same chapter of the book as we do. We've seen it with, we talked about Dave Chappelle a wee while ago, bringing Musk up on stage. I think it was in San Francisco, in front of a whole bunch of people that work or used to work in Silicon Valley. And part of that will be much like Elon Musk, where Dave Chappelle is at the moment. And I like his comedy. I have for a long time. But at the moment, he's in such an echo chamber of sort of right wing, maybe not alt-right, but certainly that world of, Joe Rogan's world, whatever world that is, the interweb, the deep state, whatever they call it, the brain train. What's that one called? The dark web, the internet dark web, whatever they call it, the IDW, that he probably was unaware that bringing him up on stage would do that. Now, Musk is the same, that he's around all these same groups of people as well. And just do it, Elon. You're a fucking billionaire, richest man. Do what you want, Elon. Just do it. And he does, and then he costs his company $100 million.
You know that the Simpsons meme that gets trotted out every time with Elon being defended by weird nerds. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, it's become such a meme that there's a segment of, I guess, the internet where Elon can do no wrong at all, and everything he does is like from the mouth of God, from the top of the mountain. Elon has come up with this, and he's almost mankind's savior. They don't brook any criticism of the guy, and it's like, look, I'm a fan of his cars. I think like SpaceX has done some cool stuff. Let's get to Mars and that sort of thing. I just wish he would shut up.
But in those ones now, he's just a figurehead, really. He doesn't run those. He doesn't. He's not the brain. Well, he's not the brains behind it, as in the person doing the technology.
It certainly sounds like, there's enough anecdotal stories about him walking into SpaceX and just proclamating stuff, and people having to sort of basically, oh yes, okay, we'll do that, and then they're just carrying on doing what they were doing anyway.
I like in the story that they just so happen to have one link in there that says Elon Musk has officially lost more money than anyone in history. So it's quite interesting that just happens to be in this story as a link off to it as well. This is the gentleman we're talking about. I can't remember whether it was multiple sclerosis, maybe is what I read.
Muscular
dystrophy. And look, he's got $100 million to have a very comfortable life with as many ramps as he needs. So thank you, Elon, for making a man's life much more comfortable. You utter twat.
So that's what I was talking about. It's probably the meme I use the most.
Very good. Very, very good. So yeah, it was a little kind of almost side issue, but Interesting to see what's happening in the Twitterverse at the moment, and I don't know. It really does just feel like Elon. It's when Trump used to tweet like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'd wake up in the morning, and all the press would
Yeah.
report what Trump had declared, and then they declared they had to say that the communications coming from his Twitter account were official statements because he was making his official proclamations. So then everything, including Kerfuffle, that came out was a White House statement, and it's just like it feels kind of similar that he's just going, "What, we need to lose 200 people? Well, that dude's in Iceland. What is he doing? What, design? We're not hiring designers. Fired." That's sort of about as deep as it feels like it goes.
I mean, I read a story about a Twitter team that was based out of France. Same sort of thing. The first thing that they knew that they were being sacked was that they lost access to their emails and remote logins and stuff like that. Well, that's great. And under American labor law, you've got at will hiring, and you can just let people go for whatever reason with no notice. In France, it doesn't quite work like that. So they have to keep paying them for like 6 months while they find another job. And it's just like, well, why would you do that? Just why?
Yeah. All right. Hey, and the text is going. There's quite a lot in the text as well. Vicky talks about, is Musk just a guy who has an ego as big as Drump's?
I do love it when people use Trump's proper name.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Surprised Musk didn't call the guy into the office to tip him out his wheelchair.
I like the fact that
the guy can start a whole chain of restaurants. LOL. What would you call the restaurants? We should come up with that. Call them Muskies or something.
I like the fact that he tried to slag off this guy by saying he's independently wealthy.
Yeah.
Like you're a nepo baby, dude. you came from a really rich family.
Jonty echoes those thoughts about what will happen about the public berating he gave him and stuff. 100 million sunset clause is just the start of it. By the time the lawyers we'll use that word reap. So there you go. Lots going on. All right. Let us, and then Vicky's just confirming because of the unions. Yes, true, because they have unions in France. Yes, and actually Rob as well. That's an example. That example of him proclamating is a good one because, in all honesty, that's what a lot of executives do. They're just a bit of a fraction less controversial, and also lots of executives may do that, but they're not the kind of sole owner of a $44 billion company who basically become God within that company. An executive still probably has a board and a CEO to answer to as well.
I think it's also his just the way that he is, the style of humor that he uses. He just comes across as like a internet forum shit poster a lot of the time. And I don't know, as a forum based internet shit poster, I guess it rubs me the wrong way.
Well, and then you get a real shit poster like the guy who put up all those things, and it's like when you go, oh man, he's got a nice swing, that golfer. It looks like a good player, and then a professional steps up, and you go, oh, okay, yep, you can see the difference.
I mean, I think it was last week they had their investor day for Tesla, and there was a whole bunch of people that were like, "Oh, Tesla's going to announce this. They're going to announce this. It's going to be big. We're going to find out lots of things about new projects that are coming out." And I think Elon put it out on the internet that he just wanted some people to jump on a live stream so he could test out a new microphone. And people sort of went, oh, well, maybe he'll tell us some sneak previews on what's coming up on the investor day. And so people got up in the middle of the night to tune into this live stream that he put up. And it was just him farting and making rooster noises for 10 minutes. And part of me went, that's legitimately really funny. And then the other half of it went, come on, man. You're one of the world's richest dudes. Stop being a dickhead. So I'm a little bit torn.
Speaking of legitimately really funny, let's talk about Rueben Kaye, shall we? Now,
yes.
I apologize a little bit. There's a little bit of a what do you call it? What do you call it when you put kind of a fake title up to try and get people on board? What's that word? It's jumped out of my head. You watch all the people. Clickbait. There's a bit of a clickbaity title because it says the project to be cancelled. Now, that's because I ran out of characters and I couldn't put the Australian project to be cancelled. So just so we're clear, we're talking about the Australian project here. Now, the Australian project, I did some reading on it today. How many people in Australia? Google that, Joe. Is it something like 22 million? 22? Hey, we'll do this way. Hang on. I like doing this. Hey, Siri, what's the population of Australia?
25.69 million.
All right. So 26 million. 25.978, Siri says. So 26 million people, right? This show, which is that's the same as The Project, one of the kind of biggest 7 p.m. slots sort of thing, gets between 100 and 200,000 viewers a night.
Oh.
TVNZ News gets 500,000 viewers. TVNZ News gets about between 400,000 and 500,000 viewers.
Jesus.
This project, the project in Australia, it was last year, I think it was getting around 200,000, and there was a report this year that said it's lost a third of its audience. That would put it down towards 120,000, 130,000 viewers out of 26 million people. In other words, this is the size of a small nationwide radio station in New Zealand. Is this show in Australia? So there's lots of arguments to be said. It should be cancelled for lots of other reasons, including ratings. But this is a bit of controversy happening in Australia at the minute, and it's about this comedian, Rueben Kaye. Now, Rueben Kaye, now please, actually, I'll do this. I want to make sure everyone can hear our sound. Here we go. I'm just going to play something. Just make sure people can hear us. I don't want to go through that again last night. Can you hear that, Joey?
Yep.
You can hear that? People in the chat, I'm just going to play a little bit of nighttime music for you. I just don't want to start this and have to re-cue it all up because it's quite an intricately timed little one. We had some trouble with the sound last night. Everyone can hear that? 3, 2, 1, looking in the chat. So this is Rueben Kaye. He went on the project and he made an off-color, you would call it, joke. You could probably even argue a joke that wasn't appropriate for 7 p.m. at night. But a joke nonetheless, and just a joke. So here is the joke by comedian Rueben Kaye.
So I think it's hilarious when someone messages me and says, you have to accept Jesus's love or you will burn in hell, because I love Jesus. I love any man who can get nailed for 3 days straight and come back for more.
Got a question, Wal?
Not about that, no.
So there's the joke. That's the joke that's caused all the controversy. Now, I have to tell you, you can see this is towards the end of the conversation. If you watch the whole conversation, there is several blue jokes in there. I say blue because I'm a 73-year-old man. And that is maybe the bluest, but still, no graphic swear words. No, nothing like what we say in the show.
That's kind of like a joke you could say in front of kids because you just don't have to explain what nailed means.
Yeah, possibly. And what has happened is some in Australia have gone mad. So let's be clear, right? This is a joke about probably a Christian God. Well, it is a Christian God because it talks about Jesus Christ. Jesus is, I believe, a prophet in Islam as well, but not a God.
Yeah. In
the Christian faith, Jesus is God. From my Catholic days, the 3-in-1, holy man and holy God. And so it's really the biggest slight against Christians. And, you would think that Christians are pretty much free fodder normally, but there's been quite the backlash, maybe testament to who watches this program in Australia, perhaps. Maybe older people who are potentially more conservative, other people who watch this program, although it's described as a very progressive, left-leaning show. This is what the man said. I love Jesus. I love any man who can get nailed for 3 days straight and come back for more. That was the joke. Now, it seems that the female host, surname is Harris. There we go. Sarah Harris. She's getting quite a bit more of the stick than any of the others. Harris and the other members of the panel burst into laughter while Waleed Ali, who is the other male host, appeared stunned at the joke. On Wednesday night's episode, Harris and Ali both apologized to viewers, but it wasn't enough to stop the backlash, with some members of Australia's Christian and Muslim communities planning to protest at Channel 10's office over the scandal. Can I just say as well, I remember the Christian world protesting about the Virgin Mary episode. No, the Virgin, and that as well, but the Virgin Mary episode of South Park, all it did was increase the next viewership by tenfold. I think I remember in New Zealand, South Park used to get about 3,000 viewers. It was on C4 or something back in the day. And then it went to like 30,000 the next day, or that episode. So all the noise did was bring a heap more attention to this thing that these people find so offensive, giving more people the chance to mock them and use that as fodder against them. So, you know, protesting is not always the best step, people, if you want to shut things down, which it seems that these people want to do. The program's social media posts have also been inundated with the hashtags, hashtag cancel the project and hashtag boycott the project. And Channel 9 star Omar Slanmankit, who won the block in 2022 alongside his mate Osman Oz Abu Malik, has emerged as one of the highest profile critics. Can I just say as well, if you win a program where you can enter as a reality TV show and become a star, your influence is not that important. Like, honestly, more power to you. I mean, I have no problems with reality TV. I watched it, I like it, but your cache in the society for how important you are, if you've won a home improvement show, is not that high. You're not valid. Your opinions aren't valid, but the seriousness at which I will take your position on serious issues is not that high. You know what I'm saying, Chewy?
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
anyway, so this is what these people were saying. So this is the winner of the block. Good on you. Taken to social media, they slammed the show, and Harris in particular, accusing her of hypocrisy after laughing at the joke at the time and later apologizing. So let's have a look at this, right? So this is the next night. This is the apology. Oh, come on. There.
And
I'll do it again.
needlessly offensive.
Do it again.
During an interview last night, our guest told a joke which we know was deeply and needlessly offensive to many of you.
We know.
We want to acknowledge the particular offence
face.
and hurt that caused our Muslim, but especially our Christian viewers. Obviously, I understand just how profound that offence was.
Yeah, live TV it's unpredictable. And when this happened in the last few moments of last night's show, it genuinely took us all by surprise. And there wasn't a lot of time to react in any sort of considered way.
It's fair to say we weren't expecting a comment like that to be made. We wouldn't knowingly broadcast it, of course. We acknowledge the offence that it caused, but more than that, we're sorry.
So that was the apology, and this is one of the criticisms. This is the face of Sarah Harris the night of the apology. This is the face of Sarah Harris when the joke was told.
So it's a good joke.
It's a good joke.
Why.
But I think that's the point. And I think part of the point of the criticism is the apology is horse shit because you're not sorry about the joke because it was a good joke. I think it was a good joke. It was a sound joke. You're sorry because of the outrage it caused, which is causing is putting you in a perilous situation work-wise. Yeah. That's what the apology is. And I think there's a bunch of criticism going, and if we went back to that article, it's pretty much saying a bunch of that. There are people who are sort of doing what I just done and posting images, side by side of the two, the laughing face and then the serious face. And this is the thing, right? That show could be cancelled because of its viewership. Obviously, they've got enough financial investment not to do that. But any show to be cancelled over a joke from a comedian who obviously is a bit blue, is a bit raunchy, and is a bit sort of, let's make double entendres, innuendo jokes. That's obviously a part of, I don't know him, I've never seen his stand up, but from watching that interview, it's fairly obvious that the double meaning is a part of what his comedy is. You get that person on, what do you expect? You then go, oh, we never knew they were going to do that. It's like, yeah, you did, because that's the kind of comedy they do. And you found it really funny the night before and you didn't the night after. Now, and saying all of that, nothing should ever get cancelled for a joke, good, bad, or indifferent. Chewy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the apology, like there's better ways that you could do that apology. Sorry, we didn't know what our guest was going to say. It was inappropriate. Just sorry. But yeah, don't say your reaction's not what it was because it's so obvious. We all saw it.
I remember having a conversation around Paul Henry. And I know some of the background at TVNZ when they let go of Paul Henry for making some comments. And the point was basically the producers of that show and the management of those shows were kind of prodding him, go on, push the boundary, push the boundary, push the boundary. You know, whether it was as overt as what I'm saying or not, but they got the naughty boy on because they wanted the naughty boy to make naughty boy jokes and to make naughty boy comments. And then when he went across the line, management goes, oh, you know, crossed the line, not appropriate. It's like you hire someone to be the naughty boy, to say the provocative thing. When they say the thing that's too provocative for you, you support the naughty boy because that's why you've got them. You can rein them in and go, hey, look, we get it. This is why we've hired you, but 10% less. But you don't then throw them under the bus. You know what I'm saying? This has an element of that they got the rude comic on, they got the dirty comic on, they got the comic on who makes jokes about dicks, make jokes about getting nailed. That's part of his thing. And then when he does it and you think it's funny, the next day you don't go, that should never have happened.
Yeah.
Because that's why he was there.
Yeah. Couple of people in the chat mentioning Life of Brian. 100%. Like, yeah, people getting all prissy about their religion. Like, I definitely think that there's a line. Like, I think religion should be able to be ridiculed. I also don't think that people should be persecuted because of their religion.
But anything should be able to be
those are two very different things.
Anything can be ridiculed. Anything. I don't give a fuck what people say tonight, today, this afternoon about punching up, punching down. If done the right way, make that clear, anything can be ridiculed. Nothing's off limits. Because if you're in comedy, and Chewy, you're a stand-up, I'm not, right? I'm a lover of. It's either everything is up for grabs or nothing's up for grabs. There's no middle ground. You don't have special classes within that get pulled out and say, you can't joke about that. Everything's up for grabs or nothing's up for grabs. So you can ridicule everything. It just depends how it's done. I mean, I'm not clever enough to do that well, so I don't do it. There are others who can.
I mean, this is the reason why I'm not fronting the project. I would go on the attack.
Oh, is that the reason? I thought that's the only reason.
The only reason.
Only reason.
I would go on the attack. Like, if you're upset about a Jesus joke and you're not upset about what people do in the name of Jesus,
yeah.
You know, you want to have a conversation about that? Let's have a conversation about that. It's an Australian project, so surely you've got to talk about who's that one that died? Pell. The Catholic with the bishop or cardinal
in Australia.
Pell. Yeah, and he was doing that old Catholic standard of shuffling pedophiles around into poorer areas and stuff like that for years.
Yeah.
So if people want to get offended about something being done with their religion, well, there we go. Let's have a conversation about that.
How about Ro? Double down and get the church in the following night to talk about
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, God, the first time. Do you remember that old movie, The Crow?
Yeah. With
fantastic movie.
Brandon, what's his name? Son. Brandon Lee. Yeah. Who died in the making of the second one?
No, I think it was in the first one.
No, the first one they filmed. It was the sequel. He died in the sequel.
Okay.
They had actually not dissimilar to Alec Baldwin, except there was a blockage in the pipe of a fake gun. So when the what do they call them? And they're not real bullets, but they're pretend bullets. The blank fired off, it still sends gas out, and it caught the thing that was in the barrel, and he got shot with the thing that was blocking the barrel and killed him in the sequel.
Yep. There's a Jesus joke in that it has never failed to make people laugh in my experience.
Right. You going to share it?
Jesus walks into a hotel, puts 3 nails on the counter and says, "Can you put me up for the night?"
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. That was a pretty deep cut as well. Both of us are knowing about The Crow. That's a bit of a deep cut for tonight.
That's a great movie.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on? Is there anything in the chat you want to get out there? Or should we move on to our last one, talking about National is now left of Labour? Were you aware of this? We'll get to that shortly. But
oh, Jesus, I know I was sick, but I'm not delusional. What the hell?
Oh, okay. Someone's telling me now it was making of the first. I thought it was making of the second. I think we should Google this because there is a first one.
I'm pretty sure it's the first one.
I'm pretty sure he died in making of the sequel. Oh, ready? Drum roll. Brandon Lee died in the making of the
Brandon
sequel.
Lee was killed by a prop gun while
Yes.
filming The Crow in
Yes.
1993.
Not the sequel.
Not the sequel.
Okay. That's it for me tonight, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Hooroo. All right. I withdraw and apologize. Okay. So let's move on then, like that never happened. I'll edit that out for the audio podcast.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So National is left of Labour at the moment. Last week, and we've talked a bit about this too. Actually, you haven't been here. People probably haven't noticed
talked
that.
about Comrade Luxon again.
I put a mop up in that place that you normally sit, and no one really seemed to notice any difference. It just went on with it. But we've talked about the ECE payment a little bit. Yeah, the $75 a week for middle to low income New Zealanders. Although middle to low income is now considered $180,000. Although,
what the fuck?
But in fairness, often what governments do is they put that threshold too low, and they'll say, and then people that don't have enough money to actually be able to utilize, but they have too much money for the thing. So I would rather they set it high than low, personally. But, I'm not going to criticize that, but it is amazing to think about nearly 200 grand being considered middle income. But teachers earn $100,000, so maybe it is. Before we go on, do you want to, because it's an incredibly good Helen Clark Labour policy that National's grasped onto. Do you want to?
Is it though?
Well,
is it, or is it just pumping a shitload of money to the 4 big early childhood centre providers?
Speaking of, guess who was not critical of it? Guess who was not critical of giving more money to early childhood education centres?
Did Sean Plunkett smell some funding?
Karen was not critical of this spending. This spending was okay. In fact, Karen actually thought maybe all schools should be funded like this. Interesting how his business mummy and daddy get $300 million a year from the government for their early childhood centres. But no, he didn't seem to think it was a bad idea at all, Chewy. Kind of strange that, wasn't it? Kind of weird.
I've got a solution for this, Pat.
Yeah. What's that?
Nationalise them. Nationalise the early childhood centres.
Very
Roll
good.
them in. I mean, why aren't they? Because it used to be that they were a luxury, right? You'd usually have one parent working and one parent in the home, and you didn't need early childhood. Yeah, kindy, and that was it. But now you can't have that. It's a requirement.
Yeah.
But at what point do you go, well, it costs me fucking 40 grand a year to send my kid to early childhood so I can go to work from a $45,000 a year job?
Yeah, look, I don't know all the finer details of National's policy yet, but I guess what I'm saying
I'm sure they don't either. That's fine.
It does feel very left wing in that it's giving, and I'm putting parentheses around middle to low income, families money for their child's early childhood education. That's not headline figures. We'll wait to make a full comment once we get down, but headline figures, doesn't sound terrible to me. I mean, it's not something that impacts me or you. Neither of us had children in early childhood education, so it's not something that we can benefit from, but as a social policy to help those that are struggling, because obviously even though the threshold might be 180K, that obviously means those on 60K are eligible for it as well. So, so headlines, I like. Details, we shall see.
See, I also remember an argument that National had when they talked about putting up student allowance to cover the increase in rental costs.
Yeah.
They just said that the landlords have just put their rents up. Will the early childhood centres not put their fees up?
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe. It's just a money bucket. Nationalise them. Cradle to the grave. Nationalise those and the elderly homes. That's it. Let's kill those industries. They're horrible. They're both horrible. And the rights can just go and live on their private island and be left alone.
Sai says something that I thought about with the conversation the other night as well, which is doesn't cover those. I bet it's not going to cover those on a benefit. That's something you do see quite a lot. That with fairness, Labor does this as well. Is if there is a new advantage, a new payment that goes out to middle income, lower income, it often doesn't benefit those on a benefit who are those who are most at need when it comes to financial situations.
Yeah. So who cares about the kids of the poor, right?
Yeah.
They made their choice when they were born. They had poor parents.
Yeah.
So we'll just doom them to that life, and we'll just carry on. Middle New Zealand.
So National moving left, giving handouts to Middle New Zealand. Gives you handouts, not a hand up, it's a handout. And now they're calling for an inquiry into banking.
Oh, okay.
Let's have a listen. Let's have a listen to that. It's a very lefty thing to do, isn't it? An inquiry on banking. Let's have a listen. Well, actually, stay tuned because maybe that's not quite the case. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. We'll have a look.
Ballooning bank profits are now the target of almost every political party after National demanded an inquiry into sector competition. But the government's considering taking a slightly different route. Political reporter Kushta Norman
He said route.
If you have a why, we have the how. And the why coming out of this place today is all about bank profits. National leading calls for a select committee inquiry.
Just before we go, now I have this strange suspicion that National, they try to sell themselves as the party of business, and they seem to be the one. Maybe I'm wrong, but that want to help businesses make profit. That's how they kind of sell part of their narrative. Would that be a fair sort of, a fair sort of thing?
Look, I, even if they would dial into that, I wouldn't have criticism for it. Sure, stay in your lane. That's good.
Until those profits become unpopular to voters, then all of a sudden they want an inquiry.
What sort of profit is too big a profit in your eyes?
Well, this to me is about issues of regulation and competition.
Regulation, Chewy. Regulating the banking sector. They've actually gone beyond the greens now.
So somewhere elsewhere in that building, David Seymour's ear is twitching.
Are there actually barriers to entry that are stopping this being properly competitive?
The big
okay. Okay.
So what, all of our banks to the Australians.
But what they're talking about is some of their other mates being able to start up other banks.
Four's recent profits have been huge. ANZ 2.3 billion, up 20%. BNZ 1.4 billion, up 7%. Westpac more than $1 billion, up 12%. And ASB's latest half-yearly profit was $840 million, up 10%.
If you look at what they make, about $10 billion in pre-tax profits every year, that's $1.1 million every hour that they're making. It is an astronomical sum of money. It is about 20% more per person than they make in Australia.
The minor parties back an inquiry.
When even the National Party is waking up to the absurd profits that Australian banks are making while low-income New Zealanders are struggling, it's time for an excess profits tax.
I respect Chloe, but I don't think that's what National's waking up to.
No, they're not. But 2 points. Every time that Chloe's on screen, can we please have some sort of crown added to the graphic? That'd be great. She's a queen.
Should we get to the end of this?
Right. No, you go.
All right, 30 seconds.
Where's the return for the investment that New Zealanders are making into Australian banks?
How is it that we've got McDonald's and KFC, but not a single American retail bank has entered the New Zealand market?
So you see the slight pivot there. So the right is actually saying we want more banks. We want American banks to come in here. No. Oh my God. So yes, are they really wanting the inquiry because they want to help New Zealanders? Are they wanting the inquiry because it's a popular thing for the voters, or are they wanting an inquiry because they want to, aid some of their global financial allies to come into New Zealand, to the New Zealand market? I don't know.
But former politicians and banks have a history of mixing, and it's prompted caution.
I don't mind them getting involved in the process, but the end consequence of this process has got to be a series of recommendations that they have to decide whether to enact.
One way to do that, a Commerce Commission market study. It's what the government's looking at.
It would actually put some objective rather than some political commentary around there, and it would give us a base on which to make, good evidence-based decisions.
The Banking Association says it welcomes the opportunity to discuss profits and hopefully answer some questions.
Right. Now, I've had a little bit of a head start on this because I was on Today FM this afternoon in Pai Korero, which is their panel. And Lloyd asked me about this, and I'm going to play you my response to it. It's only 20 or 30 seconds, Stewie, and then we'll get into it. People on the chat, you want to get into it. So Lloyd asked me about this, and this is what I had to say this afternoon.
Pat, do you think an investigation would do anything? There's a few people calling for it. The Reserve Bank was calling for it, and then we've got the National Party calling for a quick, sharp investigation by the Finance and Expenditure Committee at Parliament. Is it going to achieve anything?
I think that's kind of hilarious what National's doing. The party of business now wanting these businesses to lower their profits. It's a bit of a new trend. Mind you, last week they had their left-leaning policy on ECE funding, and now they want an inquiry into banks. But as you say, Nicola Willis calls for a short, sharp inquiry that's narrow in scope. It's almost like they want to have the appearance of having a look, but they don't really want to find anything.
It's actually a good way, and I'm glad you said that, because now that you've said it, I'm thinking that's actually very, very right. Hold the line there, both.
So just to reiterate what Nicola Willis has said, right? So this is what they want. They want a short, sharp inquiry into any potential competition issues in New Zealand's retail banking sector. And then later on, she says that the inquiry should be narrow in scope. So they want a short inquiry that's narrow in scope, and the hearing of evidence should be limited to a narrow group of stakeholders. So in other words,
bother?
That's exactly right. It seems very clear to me that National is putting on the appearance of an inquiry because it'll be popular to the vote. Oh, look, National wants to question these banks. Look, they want to question these banks, but they want a short inquiry that's incredibly narrow, because the truth is, in my honest hell belief, National doesn't want those answers, because these are National's funders. These are the place National ends up going on the boards of these businesses. They don't want to change this. They want the appearance of doing something short and sharp and narrow, but in my opinion, they don't want to see a change at all. And as JK has just said, stakeholders equals National stoners. Chewy.
Yeah. National is crawling with former bankers, like their MPs and the party.
Was that bankers?
Correct. I did pronounce the B this time.
With a B?
Yes, with big.
I always thought it started
capital
with a
B.
W. No, sorry.
Can you imagine anything worse than American banks swooping into this market?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're still dealing with the privatization of a lot of our banking. The Australians bought it, and they've just been extracting wealth from us. We've had all of those banks that were up in that graphic with the huge profits going, everybody's doing it tight, and the cost of living crisis, and it's, meanwhile, they are absolutely creaming it. And we could have National study into how best to avoid doing anything, or we could do what Chloe is saying and just tax their profits, tax their windfall tax, which, like, if you're talking about a reactive policy, that seems to be the better option to me.
Or you could do what I do and get your
Nationalise them.
Get your mortgage with the SBS, the Southern Building Society, and not the big banks.
Yeah. Well, mine's with Co-op.
Yeah.
For similar reasons.
Yeah.
Because of my issues with Westpac. But
we are Marxists, aren't we?
It does gall me, however, that to bank with Co-op, they actually do their banking with BNZ.
Yeah.
So you're never really escaping it.
I didn't get to this conversation this afternoon because contrary to kind of what we do tonight in these evening shows where we just talk it all out, with these panel shows, you have 60 to 90 seconds to get just a thought across. And another thought I was going to have for them, which I've, it's more about business, right? And in my opinion as well, obviously these banks are making horrific like almost illegal profits. However, in business in general, the objective is to make a profit. But if it's an essential service or a monopoly or a sector acting as a monopoly, which I would say the banking sector kind of is, then regulation is a lot more of a likely scenario. Now, I would say that the banking sector acts like a monopoly because they all do the same thing. There's not really a place you can go to differentiate what you need from a bank, whether it's ANZ or Westpac or even the smaller ones like SPS or Co-op. They all basically offer the same deals, the same money, the same so it kind of acts as a monopoly. And I think if something acts as a monopoly, a regulation is absolutely an option. You could say the same for the supermarkets because that's an essential. So these are the things I said: an essential service, a monopoly, or a sector acting as a monopoly. Those three areas, I reckon, are ripe for regulation.
I mean, I'm not such a red-blooded Marxist to suggest that companies shouldn't make profits, but it's when they're so egregiously over the top, like we're getting with both the banks and the supermarkets at the moment, where it's like, especially with the banks. They acknowledge that we're in a cost of living crisis. They acknowledge that things are tough. And almost the same week, they'll release a press statement saying, well, we've made all these profits. Yay us. Shareholders very, very happy. And then go, we're real not keen on where the economy's at there at the moment. And we think, 700,000 people have to lose their jobs tomorrow to get it under control. It doesn't sit right with me, and I'm not an economist. But
aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're not an economist, and you don't host a project. What are you even here for, Dewey?
I don't know. I'm just here to dispense reckons.
Let's go to the chat, though.
Okay, what have I got? Okay, going back a bit. Finsag is telling that joke at Sunday school this weekend. Excellent. The kids will love it. Mr. Roberni, nationalise the ECE. Correct. Follow me for more nationalizations. Arrest JK, looking forward to National telling us how many consultants and bureaucrats their ECE policy will need. Simon says, I'm guessing National want to increase competition in the banking sectors to some overseas banks that will come into the market. Yes, well, I guess and they'll be American and they'll be Chinese.
And that's what they're saying overtly. Because Seymour said it, why is there no more competition?
But wasn't the whole idea behind
Kiwi Bank? And then he yelled at Lister for about 10 minutes.
Wasn't the whole idea behind Kiwi Bank was to introduce more New Zealand controlled competition into the market?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that they could have helped out with there was people were struggling to get mortgages. When I first went for my mortgage, Kiwi Bank didn't want to borrow me. Westpac did. So, National opposed Kiwi Bank.
Right.
John T says if there's US banks, there will be Chinese banks. No doubt. Old mate Key will be right across it. Absolutely. And this is what I mean. We can't take National at their word anyway. But, but you got John Keyes obviously in with the banks. Didn't Uffendell come from a banking background? So did that sacrificial lamb that we talked about last week. He came from the Royal Bank of Scotland. There's so many people that have gone out there, worked in international banking, and then have come back to New Zealand to work in the National Party. They're so heavily compromised by international banking. I wouldn't trust them at all on this. Disaster Piece says posturing, acting like John Key didn't get his medal for his services to Australian banks last time the National was in. And V Bunch again reiterating they make a lot more profit per customer in New Zealand than they do in Australia. I read a very interesting story. I think it was on Stuff. In America, there's no lock-ins for your mortgage. You can just move around.
Right.
So people have 5% interest for 30 years, and they don't even have to think about it. Excuse me. Because they can pack up their mortgage and they can go to another bank just like that. And that was one of the other things that I saw brought up in this discussion, is it should be as easy to move your mortgage as it is to move your KiwiSaver.
Right.
You know, part of the reason is that we don't have enough competition in our mortgages, and to move, you've got to pay break fees. So people just normally just suck it up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's something we need to look at.
Yeah, I wonder if they can legislate that. I mean, that's basically what they did in the telecommunications world when, you know, the way that Vodafone or at that point Telecom would hold on to you was they have your number. And they basically said, they got your number, baby. And they basically made it law that it's called number portability, isn't it, Chewy? And you can take your number with you. So I was a Vodafone.
It used to take the guts of a week to move your number to another.
I was a Vodafone customer since it was Bell South. Like I was a Vodafone customer when it was Bell South, and then I became a Vodafone customer. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, Vodafone wouldn't do a deal with me to save $100 a year after 25 years of service. So I moved and took my number to 2 Degrees, which is where I am now, and I've got the same number. And that was a legislative change by the government of the day. There's nothing to say that there couldn't be something similar about mortgage portability, or something like that. So yeah, that's a really interesting thought, Joey.
Yeah, a couple of other comments here. Rob says the reason US banks aren't here is because setting up a new bank in New Zealand would be astronomically expensive. And Rose says Kiwi Bank is undercapitalized.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of other factors.
I also like what's been said down the bottom there, that moving banking is hugely time consuming. I agree. One of the reasons I stay with the banks I'm at now is it feels like it's a fucking month of work just to get the stuff together to go to another bank. So really, I typically roll over. Although I'm happy with SBS, but I typically roll over. When I think about the shopping around, I go, oh God, what am I going to have to do? Especially when you run your own business as well, then you've got a whole nother raft of things you've got to organize. So yeah, maybe actually the way to apply for mortgages could be made easier. Like maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe it's not, if they made the application service, whatever it is, the application forms, the application process, maybe is the right word, better and easier, maybe that would also give people more freedom. And as Rob's kind of saying, and what I just said about my own circumstances, more of us would be more likely to go, well, my mortgage is coming up, I'm going to have a shop around because it's not that arduous to change.
Yep. I mean, I moved all of my banking away from Westpac last year due to the issues that I had with them. And yeah, it took a lot of really being fucked off with being fucked around before.
Well, they basically took tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a huge financial hit for me to actually go, well, actually, no, I'm going to take all of my stuff and go.
But let's just say not illegally. They didn't steal it off you. They absorbed money sort of without your permission.
They went around it very, very poorly.
Yeah. People can go to stuff.co.nz if they want to read that story.
But yeah, it's like people feel loyal to some things, and that loyalty is not often reflected.
No, or reciprocated. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at refixing my mortgage in the next month or so, and it's just like, oh my God.
I think I'm due next January, which I'm a bit worried about as well. But I'm planning on winning Lotto between now and then. Just get rid of my mortgage altogether. You should plan on doing that too. It will make life much easier to you if you plan to do that as well.
I'm just hoping for this to start generating some money.
Really?
That was so smooth.
Hey, thanks in all seriousness for being on board if you're a patron. Patreon.com/Big Hairy News if you want to support what we do. We had the conversation last night, I know you were probably blowing snot bubbles and didn't see it, but there are at least 4 kind of alt-right, right-wing commentaries out there at the moment. There's the Prick Form. There's one called the Common Room. There is one that's just been started on a Monday night by Family First, like a live stream type of thing. And there's one that's going to be started by Chantel Baker and Peter Williams and some other conspiracy theorists. And I'm like, we're it. We're the only ones here on the other side trying to be the sane ones. And
I just love how persecuted that they are, but they can spin up all of these fucking shitholes.
It also goes to show the kind of money there is on the right versus on the left. And I think that's why you see in places like America, so many of these right-wing think tanks. I mean, we've got them here in New Zealand, like the Maxims of the world and that. That actually, which is a right family foundation. Someone back in that day. Yeah.
Have you dropped someone off the Patreon list?
I don't think so.
Finsark is saying that he's dropped off the list. Does it not auto-renew?
Hang on.
Pretty
I
sure
did
it doesn't.
Maybe I've just opened up the wrong one. Look, you just do a dance or something and make sure.
Is he not on page 2? Are we up to the point of scrolling it?
Hang on. Oh, you know what it probably is? I probably. Ooh.
If you listen carefully, you can hear the frantic photoshopping that's going on.
No, it's not. I've definitely done it, but I might have done it and then deleted the wrong one. Look, we'll do a special one for you tomorrow night, Finzak. It'll be a full page just for you.
Rob Burney is also saying your list is bullshit and wrong.
Oh no. All right.
A couple of people in the chat also pointing out the Bomber is kind of on the left.
Look, I used to work adjacent to Bomber. I know Bomber. I don't know him well, not anymore, but I certainly used to spend time with him every week. And
he's got some problematic positions.
Look, I wrote a piece, and the piece that I wrote on my old blog a long time ago was because of Bomber, and it was called Ideology versus Intelligent Debate. And it's a simple idea that ideologically speaking, we know that we're not always right. Like, you can't be right 100% of the time. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes what you believe is not correct. And whatever we're debating, this might be the time that you're wrong. Bomber and other ideologues can't see that. They're always right. They've always got the right and the correct perspective. And yeah, look, I have a real soft spot for Bomber, for Martin. I've always liked him. He doesn't like me. I used to communicate with him fairly heavily, and then he accused me of all sorts of stuff because I disagreed with the Ports of Auckland union and what they were doing during a protest. And that was it. Severed our relationship forever. Not that it was ever friendly. Like, I don't think I ever did anything with him socially. I used to work more of him when he worked at Channel Z. So there was enough of a relationship there for us to know each other.
Bomber's the person that inspired me to get into broadcasting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a very different beast now than he was in his Channel Z Youth Talkback days.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've seen Bomber a couple of times with Karen, and it's just, I'm not saying people shouldn't go on Karen at all. That's not the position I take, but some of the views and opinions that are coming out at the moment, they're I don't even think they're left or right. They're just beyond contrarian. They're out there in a place of, I am the sole source of truth, to coin a phrase. So look, nothing personal against him. Always liked him as a person, still like him, would sit down with him for a beer any day of the week. He wouldn't touch me with a 40-foot barge pole because I disagreed with his position and what the Ports of Auckland were doing. And that means I became a right-wing fundamentalist in his book. He's written, you could probably Google that and you'll find the blog he wrote about me being a right-wing fundamentalist because I disagreed with that. I then pointed out that in that same year, I'd written a piece supporting the teachers union that the teachers union then used on their own website. So the point that I always made was, I'm not anti-union. I'm not even anti-Ports of Auckland union. I was anti the way they were handling that issue that one time. But an ideologue can't see that. An ideologue they're always on the right side. And on that one occasion, I thought that was the wrong side. And that was be careful. It was not we were mates, but that was the end of our cordial relationship, cordial toing and froing, gone. And actually, I messaged him not long ago, to be really honest with you. I messaged him not long ago about something, asked if he wanted to come on and talk about something he'd written. And the response was, he responded, and it was just something like, no, thank you. Yeah. What was it? Where is he? There we go. Bomber. I messaged him. I said about him talking about Nanai. He was talking about Nanai Mahuta. He did a piece on Nanai Mahuta. I said I would like to join us. Said who I was. Put the link to what we do. We're live, and his response was just no thanks. So that doesn't mean anything, but is what it is. People sometimes think that I'm Bomber. I've had that before.
Yeah.
You sound like, are you? No. I've got. I was going to make a joke, but that would sound mean. I was going to say something about I've got more hair. I wasn't going to say in a mean way. I just went, no, I'm not. Anywho, I do. I like Bomber. Always have. Probably always will. Got a soft spot for him.
I mean, like I said, he inspired me to get into broadcasting. Like, when he was doing Youth Talk back on Channel Z, I'd never heard anything like it.
Yeah. I was sitting in that studio when you were listening to it.
It was a phenomenal show.
Mm.
Loved it to bits.
Yeah.
Loved Channel Z as a whole. That's what prompted me to go to broadcasting school. Our second year radio station that we put together was basically Channel Z because it wasn't down here, so we could get away with that. But yeah, it's people change.
Yeah.
People aren't never meet your heroes.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this, Bomber? I'm sure you won't, but if you do, you've got my number. Happily, love to catch up one day. Offers there. Happily catch up without needing anything from you. Not coming on the show or anything. Just catch up. Be nice to see him. Anywho, I think that's about us. I think we're done, Chewy. Anything we want to put up there? And I obviously am in the dog box over Finzag. I apologize about that. I'll go and look what I've done. I think what I've done
real bad.
Well, what I think I've done is I update that thing every time and I save it. I think what I've done is I've saved it, then I've dragged to the delete box the new one, and then I get the old one. But I promise you, tomorrow night, Finzag, you'll have your own page. You'll have all by yourself, just your own page.
We're going to create a moving graphic like they have at the Oscars for the actors that have died in the last 12 months. We're going to do that.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. That's us. We're done. We'll be back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition. Other than that, thanks, Chewy. Good to have you back on board, brother. I hope you're feeling better. And it's been a good night. Thank you, everybody. A last comment though from JK. Apparently I'm too right wing for Bomber. Plunkett though, it's okay with him. All right, guys. All the best. Catch you tomorrow night. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.
Oh, I need to push leave studio there, Chewy. I won't do that. No, I got to stay. I pushed leave studio instead of in broadcast. So we're still live right now, and I'm saying this out loud. But now I'll push in
broadcast.
broadcast.
So smooth. People won't
I know.
notice.
Bye.
Bye this time.